I'm JODIE TOFT, and I'm the Deputy Director for Puget Sound Restoration Fund. Puget Sound Restoration Fund, or PSRF as we call ourselves, is a nonprofit in the Puget Sound region, and what we do is we do the in-water, on the mud flats, in the tide flats work to restore native species that are lower down on the food web. So Olympia oysters, which are our native oyster, pinto abalone, which graze reefs and make space for bull kelp, which is another one of our major restoration programs. So in this region, in Puget Sound, we have these complex environments in our nearshore. So we have our oysters, we have our mussels, all of these bivalves and these filter feeders. You move a little bit further off into the water, and we have our algae, our kelps, our seaweeds, and all of those form this kind of complex portfolio in the marine ecosystem that provides not just food, but provides refuge for kind of the base of the food web in the marine ecosystem. And in Puget Sound, that marine food web fuels us as people. It's fueled us as people who come here. Let me start that again, sorry. I get a little rambly and then I get kind of lost in what I'm doing. So the value of what we do as Puget Sound Restoration Fund in this place is to really restore those foundational elements, the marine architecture, if you would, in Puget Sound. And the real reason why that's of value is because that marine system fuels us. It fuels the salmon, it fuels the orcas, it fuels this whole complex system that we really call home here. And without the work that we do, without those foundational elements of the marine ecosystem, it's actually pretty hard to give the rest of the system rise, to let it be healthy and fuel and give us all of the things that we really value in this region. When we think about the marine environments here, the marine habitats that we have in particular, kelp is really one of our nearshore magicians. So what kelp is doing, it's serving as an alchemist of sorts. So it's taking the carbon that we have all around us, the carbon pollution, one could say. It's taking the nutrients, where we have too many nutrients coming into our marine ecosystem, and the kelp is taking those and translating them and transforming them into food, into structure, into all sorts of other things that are really valuable to the marine ecosystem. So understanding how we can have healthy kelp forests in Puget Sound, understanding how we can restore and regrow and replant those forests once they're lost, that is a core function for a group like ours, along with a lot of other partners in the region.
How are you funded?
Right. How are we funded? Funding to do this work comes from a host of different funders. We have funding from government sources, both federal and state. We work closely with NOAA Fisheries. We have funding from the individual tribes that make this area incredibly unique throughout the United States and elsewhere. We have funding from a host of individuals and foundations who are really compelled by the work that we do. We love connecting with all of our different funders to be able to make this work really pop and drive forward marine conservation and restoration. When we first started back in 1997, the awareness of carbon pollution as a problem wasn't nearly as high as it is right now. But as you can see, we're in a really urban environment. This is a busy place. We have boats, we have jets, we have people walking on the beach, we have salmon running. We have a lot going on in this environment. And over the last 20 years or so, the carbon crisis has become increasingly important. Alongside a need to understand, well, how can we figure out how to cut our carbon emissions, comes really big questions about, well, what is the role of some of our best engineers in the marine environment, which those engineers are things like kelp, things like oysters, things that have been engineered for thousands of years to thrive in these places and to provide core functions that really help our whole marine ecosystem thrive and deliver the suite of benefits that we all need. So we feel like our work, not just we feel like, we know our work is increasingly important as we feel the impacts of carbon pollution kind of come down on us more and more so each year. Having the tools in the toolkit to be able to rebuild and restore and replenish our marine ecosystems is much more important now than it ever has been.